All right, welcome back to Friday. That's the second time I think in a month where I started the weekly wrap up like I was doing the Decision Hour show. So happy Friday, everybody! It's time for your HMG weekly wrap up, and as you can tell, today I have a very special guest with us. Kathy, how are you?
I am fantastic. It's a good day today.
Yes, 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 it most certainly is. Happy to have you on. We're Kathy is a fellow HMG family member. She's an assassin when it comes to the sales side of the house, and she's got a great podcast called The Professional Rule Breaker that we'll get into more about her here as the show goes on. So, welcome everybody. Good morning. It's Friday, thank God, and it's going to be a great day. Busy week this week. I've had a lot of stuff come up this week, and good and bad. I think you guys will like some of the topics that we're going to cover a little bit this week. But first up in the queue, we have to say goodbye to a legend, one of the great ones. Those of you baseball fans out there, Willie Mays passed away on June 18th. His nickname, he was nicknamed Say Hey Kid. He was American professional baseball center fielder. He played 23 seasons in Major League Baseball from 1951 to 1973. And in my humble opinion, he is regarded one of the greatest baseball players of all time. He broke a lot of stigmas in that era and whatnot. So, and he was 93 years old. So, loved hearing stories about him and reading history on him. So, rest in peace, Mr. Mays. Let's dive into some of the topics this week. I think it's going to be fun. Don't be afraid. And those of you that jump on, say hello, let us know where you're at, and then also leave your comments. I love reading some of the comments that you guys leave. And whether you jump on the live or you jump on this later, a lot of you watch the show throughout the weekend. Let us know where you guys are at. So let's go ahead and get started here. First up, we have far left groups to fight Louisiana law requiring 10 commandments to be displayed in a classroom. Not really sure how I felt about this one. I thought maybe it was one of those clickbait type topics, but so I clicked it, obviously, and went in. After Louisiana became the first state to require the 10 commandments to be displayed in public school classrooms, far left groups have promised to challenge the law. This is where I think it gets a little interesting. The American Civil Liberties Union, or the ACLU, announced that it and some other groups will be filing a lawsuit against the state of Louisiana. In a comment that they said, quote, "We are preparing a lawsuit to challenge HB 71. The law violates the separation of church and state and is blatantly unconstitutional," the ACLU wrote. First Amendment promises that we all get to decide for ourselves the religious beliefs, if any, to hold and practice without pressure from the government. Normally, I would probably kind of be like, well, I see their point in this. I'm trying to take a stance seeing their point of view. I also see the stance of why the state of Louisiana did this. So I'm kind of on the fence with this one. So, Kathy, I don't know if you have any comments. Jump in if you have any comments on this.
It's interesting as you were talking about it because I feel neutral about it. I see both sides of the story. Yes,
Yeah.
there should be that separation between church and state.
Yeah.
And everyone should have the freedom to practice whatever
Right.
religion they would like to practice. But it's also, I think, part of their history to have it in the schools. So, I don't know. I have really mixed feelings about it. I
It's
don't know
it's kind
really
of
which
a
way to go.
toss up. Let me be ooh, devil's advocate, and that's probably a poor choice of words for what I'm about to say. Um, because over the course of the last several years, you see a lot of uh, Lucifer satanic things showing up in schools then as well. So if that's the case, do we need to take for the people that believe in that kind of stuff? Do we need to remove those from the schools then as well?
I mean, I feel like it needs to be a neutral, safe place. That's
Right,
what school should be.
right.
It should you should be fine, whichever way that you go. My only concern is if you start taking away, the 10 commandments in the school, where does it stop? I think there's other things that are a lot more important to focus on in the schools, and that's really where the money and the focus should be, rather than let's take everything out of the schools, to make it plain vanilla.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Rich, good morning, brother. He's off to some army training. Very nice. Very nice, Rich. Good luck with that this morning, brother. Appreciate you jumping on. I see this and I think about, growing up back in my day, it was everything that you see was, in God we trust, or one nation under God. It was always, and you saw that everywhere, and that was never a problem. And I'm really having a hard time thinking of, like, when did it all of a sudden become a problem or an issue? Do you know? And I don't remember. I can't remember when that specific time was where everybody was like, "Hey, you're not supposed to say God or talk about God or this and that." And I'm very open about my faith, and whether you agree with me or not is fine. I respect the fact that you have a difference of opinion. I just let people know what works for me. And uh, I believe in God. I don't see the issue with it. Some people do, and that's fine. I respect that. So that's why with this, it's like, personally, I don't see an issue with having the 10 commandments in school. Quite frankly, the way the world's going, it's probably a good idea to have them.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. I mean, same thing with me. I don't see any issue with it. I know people may have an issue with it, but I just think back to even myself in elementary school. I went to a Catholic elementary school, so we actually went to church. We went to mass
Yeah.
before school started, and it was very, very, very strict. And you're right. It's kind of when I was young, that's the way it was. I
Yeah.
didn't really question it, didn't have any problems with it. When my kids were in elementary school as well, same thing. There really wasn't any type of issues, but you're right. When did it really all start changing? I mean, I don't know. I think I maybe started hearing about it 8 years ago, 10 years ago,
Yeah. It
something
hasn't
like that.
been very long, I don't think.
Yeah.
Probably within the last decade, I would think. I don't know. It's interesting. It's going to be. This is something that I'm very curious to see. Here's one thing. Here's a theory that I have, and just because I like to do stuff like this once a week, um, they could be upset. Well, let me back up. How do I say this? If you, I saw a study done once. This was a couple years ago, where all the laws here in the United States. There's over 1 million laws on the books in the United States, right? And if you followed the 10 commandments, you would not break a single one of those laws. Now, I'm
Mm.
not sure if that's true. I've heard that several times. I read about it a couple of times in various places. I would like to think that that part is true, but I found that kind of fascinating. Maybe that's what they're upset about. Maybe that's why they don't. I don't know. That's just my.
I've never heard that, but that makes a lot of sense. I mean, because the 10 commandments is all about doing and being good.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense because you would think our laws would kind of follow
Yeah.
that.
Fo- Follow the original 10 laws, and you got to worry about the other ones.
I mean, you would think. We
Yeah.
hope. I bet
Yeah.
you there's some. I don't know. Gosh,
Yeah.
it's
And
got me thinking. Maybe there's
I
some
think
that aren't that way.
that's something. Anybody out there that wants to research that, by all means, feel free and give us an update if we're wrong. All right, let's move on to the next one. I get to talk about one of my favorite organizations in the world. The WEF calls for removal of AI disinformation. The World Economic Forum, and obviously I said that with much sarcasm, everybody. The World Economic Forum is calling for AI disinformation and other forms of disinformation to be removed from the internet. Wow. The article titled "Stopping AI Disinformation: Protecting Truth in the Digital World" urges governments to censor AI generated harmful content. End quote. Uh,
Wow.
what
That means like
it's
so
like
much is
opening up Pandora's box. Like,
right.
where do you go from here? According to the WEF, gendered disinformation is an example of AI generated harmful content. Really? Ken, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Um, this is my uh with everything that has happened with social media over the last several years and the fact checkers and this and that and I'll say this all happened all probably started around the 2016 election. Let's be honest. I mean, that's the WEF, who is a group of morons that collect each other's whatever and then say this is what we're going to do for the rest of the world. We need it, whatever. I didn't.
We
I don't answer to you. I don't remember voting you in for
right.
anything.
We didn't elect them.
No,
Yes.
but they feel entitled that they can say this is what we're going to do. But the fact that it's saying that AI has disinformation, well, who's
Well,
who's saying that it's disinformation?
right. That's the first thing. And AI, well, let's just say um, information or tools that are AI tools, uh, they get their information from things that are on the internet, but also things, it's like looking at an encyclopedia.
Right.
So where do you draw that line of what is disinformation? And just to even think of the term disinformation, I mean, years ago, I mean, that's even
Right.
10 years ago, that word didn't exist, I
right.
don't think.
This is nothing more than another power poll or power play to say, well, we say whether it's true or not. So this is, do as you say, not as I do,
Mhm,
kind of a thing. And I think with what is the WEF is calling for, this AI disinformation, it's like you said, Kathy. You look at it like they're getting all of that information from the internet and combining it together through different algorithms and whatnot. Ultimately, what the WEF has always been trying to do, in my opinion, is control. It's a control move.
yeah. I have to agree with you. I'm sure that there's some good things with the WEF,
Oh,
but I do agree there is a bit of a control issue there. And when it comes to AI and information, I think whether it's AI generated or not AI generated, I think people need to look at information and do their research, especially if it's something really important or important to them.
yeah,
Do their research. Anytime I use AI, I actually ask AI to give me references, and then I will go back
nice.
and I will actually check those references, statistics or whatever, make sure it comes from reputable sources.
Yeah,
Um, but what's kind of interesting, okay, to play the devil's advocate, It's my turn this time to do that. Think about it. So, what if somebody really wanted to start a disinformation campaign and puts out information out there that they know is not truthful, but they put it in a bunch of different media outlets and, maybe even talk shows or whatever it is, right? And then it starts growing and starts spinning. And some of these places are, potentially reputable, um, networks. Yeah,
First off, let me just say this. I am shocked that you would say that people would actually do something like that. Like, would network are you telling me that our media would consider doing something like that? No, I for one am shocked that
Yeah,
they would do that.
right.
I
Exactly.
mean,
What? Would they
I
do that?
can't.
Yeah.
Oh,
But that's the thing. So let's say if you want to monitor and remove the disinformation, it has to be done across the board. But that means you're taking down Lord knows how much,
yeah,
50% of everything that's out there. I mean, who
yeah.
knows?
Well,
You know?
and and
I like that comment David
it's
made, David Willis
yeah.
Jr.
Come
There
on.
is no false narratives in media. Love that. And I'm
Hey,
not gonna
what's
say
up, brother? I appreciate you
the
jumping on,
second
man.
part that
Yeah.
he wrote
It's
because you
it's
might get censored.
right, and it's so true, and I love the fact that you made a good point there is asking AI. And those of you that that are using AI, great advice that Kathy just gave is like when you're using these AI tools, ask for references so you can check them. And I say this every week. Some of the headlines that we cover. This is just stuff that I find interesting. I bring it to you guys. Check me on it. Go do. Don't believe everything I say. Everybody carries around these little pocket computers. Look it up. Stop if you're going to keep scrolling for the hours that you do. Be honest on research something and learn something while you're doing it. Anyway, that being said, the AI stuff is interesting, and I think with the media side of things, like Dave said, no false narratives in media. I was talking with a media friend of mine, works for a network that will remain nameless, and I asked, what's the point of having editors
Mhm.
in the media? And it's like, so you can, and that person's kind of caught themselves. I was like, so you can piece together what it is you want them to say to whether it's a false narrative or lead people down a path of what you want them to believe. And then you take that and then you share it with the other networks that are under the umbrella, because let's face it, the majority of the media outlets are owned by two or three umbrella companies. So everybody wonders why the media is saying, well, if you go here, well, they're saying it over at this network and they're saying it over at this network. Duh. It's because they're all owned by the same people. Don't take my word for it. Look this up. This is stuff that you guys can
Well, do
look
you
up.
remember though when we were growing up, um, like you watched the news, it was fact checked.
Yeah.
Like, it was there were no commentaries. It was this is the news. This is what's happening.
Right.
And then it got, and if there was an editorial, everybody knew it was an editorial. I think they announced it or it was on the
Right.
screen or something,
They were more transparent on how they
right.
got the information. So it's funny is if you look at the media side of it, and here's a great. There's no promotion of this particular gentleman or at all, but Ted Turner, who
Mhm,
founded CNN, which was
mhm.
not one of my favorite organizations now, but if you read his autobiography, very interesting individual. Like he had no experience in the media realm. He was a billboard salesman, and then he created CNN from literally nothing. And then he got pushed out by Disney, uh, and it was interesting how that is. And if you, it really opened up my mind to just how my eyes on how the media was run. And then you start researching, like, well, back in the 80s when Ronald Reagan was president, I think he was the one that said journalists can add their opinion into their broadcast a little bit as well. I could be wrong on the damn, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that one. But what was interesting about that is there was a God, who is the actor from Dumb and Dumber? Not Jim Carrey, the other guy, Jeff.
I know who you're talking about. I can see his
Anyway,
face.
so
Yeah.
he did a show on Netflix that talked, that was Newsroom, I think it was called, and they only ended up doing like 3 seasons, I think. And you'll see the clip on social media everywhere. And he says America's not the greatest nation in the world anymore. It's blah 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 blah. Daniels, thank you, Ken,
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, Jeff Daniels, um, and he goes on about saying why America's not the greatest nation in the world anymore. We're this, we're that, blah 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 blah. Anyway, in the last season, and he was very hell bent the first 2 seasons on, we're going to get it right. This is what we're going to do. And then in the third season, it was just like, hey, all the other news outlets are starting to give their opinion. So we need to start doing that. And he got forced into doing that. And that was the last season that they did. And I thought that was kind of interesting at how they tied all of that together as well. Newsroom, I think it's called. Go check that out. I think it's on Netflix still. Anyway, I'm going to get off that tangent of the AI media because I can go on and on. Next up, fun for this particular nurse. FBI sent to resident of nurse exposing child gender transition program. FBI agents appeared at a house of a nurse who blew the whistle on child gender transition program at a Texas children's hospital, according to a report that was done by a gentleman by the name of Chris Rufo in the City Journal. I've seen several clips going around social media about this. The nurse saw that children were increasingly being treated for gender dysphoria at a hospital in 2021. The transgender children treated at the hospital had underlying conditions such as depression, anxiety, and other psychological conditions. Rather than addressing those particular issues, doctors prescribed children with the means of gender affirming care. I think that's a form of child abuse, in my opinion. I don't know. I could be wrong. But the story comes as another Texas children's hospital doctor who was indicted by the Department of Justice on 4 felony charges after exposing the hospital's transgender. So to me, what this sounds like is the whistleblowers are getting in trouble.
It's yes, and why is the DOJ and the FBI involved in it?
That's a
That's the question I'm
that
asking.
is a
Why are they
great
involved to
question.
begin with
Great question.
something like that? That's what I don't understand.
And that's exactly why I brought this up. Look this one up, everybody, and do some more research on this one. Kathy asked a great question. Why is the DOJ and the FBI involved in something like this?
'Cause
Well,
I didn't really think that that was, and maybe I'm completely wrong. My image of what the FBI does and what the DOJ doesn't really fall into that bucket, but maybe obviously they've since branched out somehow. Um,
the doctor had wrote 3 heavily armed agents were at my door to inform me that I was indicted on 4 felonies for blowing the whistle about the largest children's hospital in the world, lying to the public about their transgender program. Now, again, I'm getting the second hand. I'm sure there's plenty of agencies and whatnot that like to watch. I'm just repeating what you guys have already reported. so, Ken, weaponizing the government. Yeah, it's doing stuff under, what's the easiest way to hide something? Right out in the open, right? And they're doing it at the largest children's hospital. I think that's it's shameful. It's a disgrace, and people that are doing those said things should be punished severely. not the people that are blowing the whistle on those people that are doing those things. And here's the other thing. I'd like to know what the parents have to say about it. Not once do they mention anything about the parents. Were the parents on board with it?
You would think that the parents would know. Now, whether they're on board with it, I mean, who knows? I assume it's like a case by case basis, and I would assume, in my experience, healthcare professionals
Yeah.
do for when they are dealing with minors, they do involve the parents. That's my experience. But has that changed, especially when it comes to any type of gender dysmorphia or anything like that? I've seen reports of different things. Whether it's true or it's not true, it's so hard to tell. But I would think the parents would be heavily involved in something like that.
Yeah.
Because if you're a parent, you need to care about your child.
Right.
Yeah, and what's going on with your child. Any decision, in my viewpoint, should be a joint decision.
I agree. I agree with that. Let's move on to the next one. This is our last topic or last headline. All my veterans out there and current active duty members, this one you'll love this one. U.S. military may consume lab-grown meat to reduce carbon footprints. Let me read that again, just so I can. U.S. military may consume lab-grown meat to reduce carbon footprint.
Oh my gosh.
I
Just talk about okay.
my blood is boiling right now.
Oh, okay.
And this is one of the things is my friend AJ Richards. He's out in Cody, Wyoming. Huge, working with a ton of ranchers and stuff. David, I get it. Yeah.
I like that. Thank you, David. Yeah.
Let me read this here real quick. Manufacturing Innovation Group, BioMade, and I've brought that company up before in the past, announced that it received hundreds of millions of dollars from the Department of Defense to develop food innovations that reduce the CO2 footprint of food production and or transport to DoD operational environments. I'm going to skip the rest of this crap and go right down to last year. BioMade announced a $450 million budget increase from the DoD to strengthen industrial manufacturing, innovation, and education. The total budget now exceeds $500 million. Important note, 2 states, Florida and Alabama, have banned lab-grown meat. And I pray everything holy that other states soon follow that. I don't know. Would you eat meat?
Lab-grown meat? No.
Yeah, lab-grown
No.
meat or meat that was, like a 3D
No.
printer? I mean,
No. I mean, I think it's just from the nutritional standpoint, there's no way that is going to be healthy
No.
for you. It's not gonna have the nutrients in it. Even if it's like a biosimilar or something like that, it's still not going to be the same. I mean, a lot of what we could just there's so many things out there, but I think about years ago, when there was genetic engineering.
yeah.
Actually, part of it was discovered in the university that I went to, my undergrad university that I went to. And it was a big deal way back when, genetic engineering of food. It was for grains, and it was more to solve world hunger and those type of things. What have we found since then? GMOs are not good for you. It causes a lot of inflammation in there's a lot of things, inflammation in the body. Nutritionally, it's not great for you either. And so just think about it. If you have some lab type of meat, you lose the nutritional value. And I kind of feel it's a little bit, and maybe I'm off base on this, it's a little bit of a control thing.
Yeah,
Which
I'm
yeah,
starting to
they
see
can
a
control
pattern.
the supply, right? If and where will that go? They'll control the supply first off, and who, yeah, yeah.
Rob, you got it right too, man. You and David got it, and Ken, we are the carbon footprint they want to remove, and that's
Mm,
not that's not a far off statement, in my opinion.
yep.
I can see why you say that, Ken. It's there's been, now for a few years there's been a war on our food chain supply. You look at I want to say it was like Missouri or Kansas, that another chicken farm went up in flames. You don't see it a lot. I caught it on secondhand media outlets that are in the food industry, that you do not see mainstream media uh, covering it. Idaho recently, they did something about their what was it? They canceled, or they put a squash on water resources for ranchers out there. Now, since then, like within the last few days, they found an agreement to work this season, harvest season out and whatnot. But they're gonna have to come to the table next year and figure out water rights for what ranchers can use and not use and all this other stuff. So it is just it is it's nasty. It's frustrating. I'm a big proponent and a strong advocate for growing your own food. If you go back in my backyard, you'll see 5-gallon buckets of whatever. I've got lettuce and spinach and lemons and apple trees and stuff like that. But then I work with local farmers in my area here. We got a rancher that we work with, and we get a half a cow every year, to fill a freezer. I know where that cow is coming from. I know what that cow is eating because we've had long conversations with that. I encourage people to be careful buying meat at the stores, because FDA does. You don't have to put that stuff on the packaging right now.
And there's actually a beef shortage here in the US. So a lot of the beef that you buy in the grocery stores are actually not coming from the US.
No, they're coming
And you
from
don't know what's in it,
right,
right?
right.
And there's could be I mean, obviously hormones, antibiotics, the cows could be treated with mRNA. There's like so much that goes in the meat supplies. And the other thing too is they're blending. You could have in a package of ground beef, they're blending, 400 cows
Yeah,
potentially in
yeah.
there. So you're not just getting that one. So I love what you're doing. You know where it comes from.
Yeah.
Where I buy our meat, we know exactly where it comes from and what's in it.
He
Um,
and here's the nice thing about working with like local ranchers and farmers is, like, I sat down and actually budgeted this out and looked at, okay, how much meat was I buying from the store a year, and then compared it to going to the local farmer and buying half a cow, which ended up being about, I don't know, 180 pounds, I think, of uh, um, once it was all processed, and I saved money.
mhm.
I saved money doing it that way. I want to put up David's comment here because Ken, no, I haven't watched it yet. I got to get on that and do that this weekend. David talking about Idaho. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, why we're we're a country that relies on our agriculture. Why aren't we doing more of it? It blows my mind how they're destroying it. And they, meaning the string pullers of, like, part of it is the WEF and some of the other, government. It's follow the money. Um, all right, moving on. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit. Well, before I get into that, next week, I'm going to be down in Charlotte, North Carolina for the Empowered Podcasting event. I'll be there Friday and Saturday down there. If you're going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina next week, let me know. Would love to link up with you and meet up with you. Now, this part of the show, very special co-host on with us again. Thank you, Kathy, for joining us today. Um, who is Kathy? Tell
Oh,
viewers,
goodness.
listeners, who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah,
That's a good question. So many different parts of me, needless to say.
true. True.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So first off, I'm known as the professional rule breaker. It's interesting. I had this conversation yesterday with someone else. He also considers himself to be a rule breaker, and one of the things he said was he was born that way. And I thought, I think I was too.
Yeah.
Um, I think I was born that way too. And what's meant by being a rule breaker, we're not talking about breaking laws or anything like that. What we're talking about is really having a different way of thinking, always trying to figure out, is there a better way of doing something?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, especially if there's a problem, trying to figure out how to solve that problem. So that's, I would say, at the core, that's who I am. Somebody, I would say, a fixer in a weird way.
Okay.
I'm kind of a fixer.
Yeah.
I'm a sales expert. I've sold close to $1 billion in yeah, I know you're shaking your heads. And I never set out to do that. That was never the path that I thought my life would take.
Yeah.
So I help entrepreneurs and small businesses really, first off, find the low hanging fruit and then help them succeed in sales and in the direction that they want to go. Because I mean, that's always really important, at the base of it. Everybody has a dream, a goal that's out there. And so I'm here to prop people up, make sure they're going in the right direction and support them where I can. And I have a little bit of a left brain, right brain. I'm very, very creative. Obviously, if I think outside the box, I would have to be very creative, but I'm also a part-time professional actor as well. It's just something I love to do
Yeah.
for fun. But I think it strengthens what I do in helping people because it's always been my goal. I think about this from being a young child. My big thing is I've always wanted to make a difference in the world in
Yeah.
some shape or form. So I think with what I'm doing as a professional rule breaker in my own little way, when I help people, I am doing that. Um, I have a podcast. It's called The Professional Rule Breaker. And if you listen to it, you're going to hear me say at the very end, I really encourage the listeners, to really go after what it is, what their special talents are and put it out there. Because I always say it's like throwing a stone into a lake with the ripple effects. You're making a difference because with those tiny little ripple effects, so you don't know who you're going to affect. It can be, one person that maybe might be a world leader that could do really positive thing or negotiate world peace or find the next cure for cancer.
Yeah.
You just don't know, even if it's just a moment in time. Because I just think about times in my life in which there were these moments where someone either imparted some wisdom on me or helped me in some shape or form that kind of changed the trajectory of my life.
That's awesome. Let me ask you a question. Do you
Mhm.
find with everything that you do, the acting
Mhm.
and the sales and the coaching side, do they all tie in together? Do you find it easy to do all of it together? I would think that your schedule's pretty busy and you got to
It
really
is busy, and if anybody knows anything about the, entertainment world or the acting world, you know, s even just things such as auditions, they come up out of the blue, and you just have to make time, and you have to do it. So, yeah, but it definitely impacts, everything that I do, and, um, it's interesting because people say to me, "Oh, because you have done some acting, it's got to be really easy for you to be on TV, or it's really easy for you to do a show or, podcast or whatever it is, or get in front and speak in front of people." What's really interesting about all of that is, first off, let me just kind of digress a little bit. One of the things that you'll find about a lot of actors is they're introverts, which most people would never probably believe. Not all of them,
right,
but a lot of them
right.
are introverts. And so it's kind of a funny thing. It's like if you're an introvert and then you do this thing where you put yourself out in front of people. It's almost like it's like an opposite of like what your personality could be. I think for me, it's easier getting in front of people or whatever just because I've done it so much. I wouldn't say practice makes perfect, but it makes it easier. Practice makes it easier.
Every time I have to get on stage, if I'm doing a speech or even doing a live, like mind you, I've been doing this for over a decade now, and every week it's a little like my nerves get a little. I still get that little butterflies in my stomach kind of a thing.
But you know
I'm
what that means?
nervous.
That means that you care.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because
Of course, of
if
course.
you were just like, "Yeah,"
Yeah, I was just like,
it
don't
wouldn't
get me
yeah.
wrong, it's gotten a lot easier over the years, I've got it down to, like, a science now where it's like, "Okay, I'm set up, I'm doing this, doesn't mean I don't have problems, I have problems weekly with
I
with
have
this."
a trick for you.
What's that?
I have a trick for you. This is what I do. Now, whether this will work for you or not, there's actually there's there's a couple things that I think help for anybody that gets those jitters,
Yeah,
those nerves. Let's say you got to go out in front of people, or you're in a social event. Let's
yeah,
say that. Some people, have social anxiety, and you got to go and you got to talk to people, or a networking event, or that type of thing. This is the first trick that I learned that really helped me is before I ever turn around to face anyone, or let's say in this case, turn on the camera or whatever it is,
yeah,
I literally take a deep breath. I do a
okay,
because the minute you do that, all of a sudden it just kind of grounds you and then jitters and stuff kind of go away. Now, if you really have a lot of jitters, this is something that I learned from the acting world. It is you just go and for people watching, you can if they're listening, they'll be like, "What's she doing? What's she doing?" Type of thing. But if you're watching, is you literally will take every part of your body and you just kind of go, "Ugh," like you just do clench,
tense up real quick, yeah,
clench up real quick and let it go. And all of a sudden you're like, oh,
yeah,
that nervous energy is kind of gone. That's harder to do without people noticing.
right.
The deep breath, nobody
You
will ever see that.
Yeah,
Um,
that part people will see when you clench up. I think it's just it's interesting because the last time I got up on stage and it was just like, okay, I get it, and you got all these people looking at you, and it's like that every time, and it's not like I don't, I'm pretty comfortable with whatever the topic is at the time or that they've asked me to talk on. Um, but it's like having all those people. It's like so I try to and for those of you that are getting into the speaking circuits or whatnot, one of the things that I do is I just look over everybody's head. I
mhm.
just I see who's out there and I'll pick it. They say pick a spot in the back of the room or whatnot. Anyway, I thought I'd share that too. But
I got one more thing that maybe might help for anybody that's out there, and comes from sales.
yeah,
It's because a lot of people get very nervous, and that's one of the things I help people with is learning how to sell because everybody sells. They just don't know that they actually do.
okay,
Uh,
yeah,
but it's flipping your attention. So a lot of times when you're nervous, especially when it comes to sales, and maybe when you're speaking too, is you're focusing on yourself. You're going, oh my gosh, am I going to make a mistake? Am I going to do all my information the way I'm supposed to? Am I going to hit my spots? Those type of things. You're looking in completely.
right,
You flip your focus on your customer, on the
yeah.
people. Like, what is it that you're going to help them with? I think even in the speaking, like, hey, I got this message that I think it's going to help everybody that's out there. Maybe something like that might help. I don't know. I haven't tried it on the speaking side. I know it definitely works on the sales side.
Let me ask you this because I got a background in sales, and one of the things that I've always thought I took a bunch of psychology classes as elective courses because psychology is what the study of people, right? And I found
Mhm.
it fascinating. I don't know, I'm just sick that way, but I think it helped in my sales career because it was like I think one of the key things was I think if you believe in the product, you're not selling the product, you're selling yourself. And I
Mhm.
think you said the flip, and this is where it was. I didn't talk about the product at all. I got to know the person, and you establish that trust. And then you kind of slowly, you'll find your key points. They'll throw smoke screens in there why they don't want to, make a purchase now, or why they can't do this or do that. And sometimes that, in most often cases, you're not going to get the sell on the first phone call. You might get it on the second, or even third. You could get it on the first, depending on the trust that you build with that customer. But one of the things that I've found, that if you believe in the product, then the product will definitely sell itself. I've found in some jobs in the past where I just didn't necessarily believe in the product, and it showed in your presentation. Um, Needless to say, I
Yeah.
didn't stay at those positions very, very long.
You
But
probably didn't believe it, and you probably didn't love it. So
yeah, no,
both of
no.
those things are
If
things
you
that
if you're bel if you're believing in it, and especially if you're doing phone sales, you're not doing
are.
it face to face, that will come through the phone and whatnot.
Oh,
So I think those are all big, big
for
factors.
for sure. I mean, people buy from people that they like
Yeah,
and that they trust. And they're also buying the experience. I mean, granted, they're buying the product, and the
right.
product has to be an amazing product, and you
And
have to.
whatever that product may be, whatever that person's
Yeah,
looking for, I think whatever that
absolutely.
product may be, you know.
But they're also buying the experience
Yeah,
of the process of being with you or your
right.
company. So if the experience isn't very good, phew, I mean, you could have the best product in the whole wide world. You're never going to sell it in a
No,
million years.
no sale, no retention, nothing.
Right. But if you have this, if your customer has this amazing experience in the whole buying process, they're going to be picking up the phone even before you ask them to refer you to everyone.
I agree. I agree. Let's go ahead and let's get started on some of the shows here, Kathy. Why don't you kick us off? Why don't you talk about the professional rule breaker and talk about your uh, latest episode?
Boy, I have, well, Professional Rule Breaker, the podcast, it's kind of evolved a little bit. My show has evolved a little bit. Originally, I was only speaking with business people to get the wisdom from them on what made them successful, so that my listeners could take, even if it's one teeny little piece, and put it into whatever it is that they were doing.
Yeah.
That has since evolved, in which it's not necessarily always business people, because there's a lot of people that have had amazing success in their life. And I think there's a lot of things that are the same with successful people. The drive, the out of the box thinking, the leadership that they have, and the overall want to do something good for humanity, I
Yeah.
think, are the people that succeed the most. So we've had some really amazing guests. I've had the former US Surgeon General, Dr. Carmona, who is an amazing man. He's a hero. I mean, just leadership alone, he imparted some just crazy wisdom that I actually didn't even expect. And then the stories that he told a story about, I'm trying to think. I think this was before he was the US Surgeon General. And he rescued, because he worked for a big hospital system
Mhm.
in the Arizona area. And there was a helicopter crash with like the nurse and the pilot. I don't know who else. I think there was another individual on the helicopter. During bad weather, they crashed into a mountainside, a snowy mountainside. So it must have been closer to like Flagstaff or somewhere in that area. And there was no way to get to them. They could see that one person was still alive. And so what he did was he got the helicopter pilot. So he's ex-military,
Mm.
and he got the helicopter pilot to get close enough. They put a rope, down. And he tied himself to a rope, went down, grabbed the person, and I don't remember, this person had like a huge amount, 70% of third degree burns, ended up surviving.
Wow.
Grabbed that person, but because of the wind and everything that was going on, they couldn't pull them up. So they had to fly miles with him tethered to this rope. And I
Yeah.
guess the news stations had grabbed a hold, the local affiliate had grabbed a hold of it. So there's video of him doing this rescue. And then eventually, obviously, he evolved and did, he became a U.S. Surgeon General. That was such an interest. I mean, I was fascinated. I couldn't get off. And usually my episodes are anywhere from like 20 to 30 minutes. We had to split this episode into two, and I think each one is probably close to 50 minutes. And we had to edit things out of this episode. We couldn't use like the entire episode because it would have just been way too long. But it was just so interesting. What's interesting, kind of a little peak because he since has retired.
Yeah.
But these folks, like the U.S. Surgeon Generals, they still get together. Like the day before, he had been at a meeting where all these former and current U.S. Surgeon Generals were together. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know.
To be a fly on the wall in
Oh
that,
my gosh. Yes. And
the
then
conversations that they have and
oh,
the
yeah.
banter between them and whatnot, I think that'd be pretty interesting to sit in
Oh
on.
my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've had a Nobel Peace Prize winner on as well too. And it's the kindness. That's what I find
Yeah.
with people that are ultra successful. At least in my experience, I'm lucky enough to be able to get them on my show. They're just kind. They want to make a difference
Yeah.
in the world. And, and it can be anybody. It can be, I've had some amazing business people. I have somebody that started a side business and, and it was a side hustle and it's he's making millions now. So, that was a really fantastic episode. I've had AI because we were talking about AI.
Yeah.
Before I've had AI experts on as well. And we have some really great future guests coming on as well, talking about AI, just talking about marketing and scaling and gosh, just so many just really, really amazing guests. And
Love it.
what I find is everybody's so different and what they bring to the table
Well, isn't that the funny thing about
so different.
podcasting though? Like when you have a show, I've always found it fascinating. Like, you can be talking to an actor or a director or one week, and the next week you could be talking to your neighbor, and you could learn more from the neighbor than you did from the last week or something, or you just hearing people's different stories and I don't know. I've always
Different
kind of found that
perspectives.
fascinating
Mhm.
and
And
one of
how
the
they
things I
even grew
enjoy
up.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting, like, what's their background? What's
right.
what's really interesting is that all these people, they never set out to do what they ended up doing.
No.
They had a bit of an
Yep.
unconventional path.
Yeah.
And, it's funny, everybody, because I always ask the question, so what makes you a rule breaker? Everybody's always like gangbusters into answering that question, and that's one of the reasons that really drew them to be a guest on my show. Yesterday, I did an interview with somebody, and it was the first time that somebody said, well, you know what? Most of my life really followed all the rules, but then I realized I had a really unconventional way. But I've never had anybody say that. I was almost taken aback, like,
Wow.
I always, I followed the rules and fell in line. And I was like, huh?
Yeah.
I was like, what?
First time.
But yeah, so that was really different. But I just find people that think outside the box really fascinating. I have my sights set on some major rule breakers out there to get them on the show. So hopefully someday I will get them on the show as well. But it's always fascinating. I mean, it can be anybody. It
Yeah.
can exactly, it could be the neighbor that that thinks outside the box and
And
does
that's
things to help people.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun about it. I
Yeah.
absolutely I love it. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
I was blessed enough you asked me to come on.
I
Uh,
had, yes, Adam
and
Bird, Mr.
I
Roadworker.
yeah, and that was had a blast doing that. Um
You
the
said something that I really loved, and just so you know, you don't even know this, because we're gonna be celebrating our
oh, here we
100th
go.
episode coming up here shortly, and, I have had so many amazing guests, but I picked 3 to do, like, a little highlight of the and instead of me interviewing somebody new, I just kinda did it as a celebration,
Yeah.
and you, my friend, are
Oh,
one of the 3. So, but you said something that I love, and I'm probably not gonna say it quite like you said it, but are you working, oh gosh, help me with this one. Are you working for someone else, um,
it was
or
something along the lines is, are you building somebody else's
yes,
dreams,
that's
or are
it.
you working for yourself?
Yes.
And 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 I remember distinctly why I said it that way, because I would look back on my life and I remember telling a story about quitting my corporate job,
Yep.
which was April 1st of 2013. And it was like, oh, it's the April
There's how
Fool's
you
Day.
can remember that
Yeah,
date.
and it
I
was and
remember
it,
mine too.
yeah, and it was funny. Part of it was funny because it was April Fool's Day, but
Oh,
it but it was
yes.
yeah, like it well, because I walked in and I was just like, "Hey, I quit." And they're like, "Ah, that's a good okay, well,"
Oh,
and
funny.
then it's like
Yeah.
it was
No.
20 minutes on my way home, and the boss called and he's like, "Hey, where'd you go?" "No, man, I quit."
Isn't
Like,
that funny? Like, when you, leave a position, a job,
yeah.
whatever, they never take you serious at first. They're like, "No,
No,
you're not. You're really
and it
not,
was
are
and it
you?" And I'm like, "Oh, but yes, I really am."
yeah, and I think it didn't hit me till the next morning where it was just like, I'm a single parent, I got a mortgage, I got a vehicle, car payment, or a car note, and all this other stuff, no money in the bank, and I just quit my job, and I was like, "Oh, this like, it just got real." Like, this whole entrepreneur thing, I mean, that's when it went full force, and I've been, blessed to continue to do by the grace of God, allows me to wake up every morning and work with people such as yourself and other people that HMG works with. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I love what we do and what we're about. And you know, September will be 9 years under this particular brand, and I think we're just like
Congratulations.
we're just getting started. I say that every year, like, we're just getting started, because I feel like every year brings on something new. And it's Matthew McConaughey said something like, I look at myself 10 years from now and it gives me something to shoot for. And I'm paraphrasing
Yeah,
uh
that's
here.
the
Sorry,
vision.
Mr. McConaughey, but that was I kind of look at that very similar to what we're doing here at HMG and the people that are involved with it. The somebody asked me, like, why did I get into media? Had you asked me over a decade ago if I ever thought about getting into entertainment and doing this, I would have laughed at you, because I'm not. I joke around like, oh, I got the
Me
face for radio.
too.
I wouldn't do this kind of thing.
Me
And
too.
and now I can't imagine myself doing anything but this. You know what I mean? Um, so it's been fun.
Mhm.
That
Oh,
being said,
absolutely.
the professional rule breaker, go check out her show. You can hear it listen, watch live, on anywhere you can listen to podcasts. You can also find her on the Heroes Media Group. Go to heroesmediagroup.com. She's got her show page there as well. And how often, like, you're putting out shows? How often are you doing shows?
So we are doing 2 a week, one with a guest, one without a guest,
Okay,
because I decided to put a couple of episodes, not a couple, several episodes out there from things that I learned that week that I can impart,
nice.
my wisdom on. That portion of it is going to take a rest until September. We're kicking that portion back up, but it's every week. Otherwise,
Nice.
Thursdays is when we release the guest episodes, and then Tuesdays, I call it Pocket Ninja. You have me in you have me in your pocket. I'm your ninja to help you with whatever problems it is that you're having. And we're taping more of those. It's just that we're going to start those back up again in September.
Perfect.
But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun doing this. It's same thing with me. If somebody had asked me years ago, I'd have been like, a show, a
Yeah.
podcast? No, I'm going to coach people on, how to succeed in sales and in business. I would have said, nope, but I love every minute of it.
I wouldn't change it for the world at this point.
Mhm.
So, well, Kathy, thank you for being with us today. We're going to go through some of the other shows here.
Thank you for
Welcome
having
to stay on with us if you'd like. I hope you do. Folks, we're going to cover what you missed on the shows this week. First in the queue, Patriots Inside the Wire. One of our newer shows, Gold Star Mother, speaks with DC American Legion commander and National Sky Pilot and Gunnery Sergeant of the United States Marine Corps. Go to Patriots Inside the Wire Facebook page and you can watch her show live. And I believe she does a show twice a week right now. Bump in the Road, one of our newer shows here to the network. This week, Yogi Aaron on life-changing power of mindfulness. Wake up every morning and ask those questions. One, how can I live my best life today?
I
And
love
two,
Yogi Aaron.
yeah, and how
He's been on my show. I didn't realize he was in your network.
yeah,
I
no,
love
he
him.
was on the Bump in the Road podcast this week, and the other question he asked is, how can I live more fully? And this was such an amazing episode, and the stuff that this gentleman went through,
Oh my gosh, he's
through
amazing. Amazing.
chronic pain,
Yes.
confronting one's identity. It was funny in here in the notes. It's like, it's not just yoga. It's,
Mhm.
and it was like, wow. And then reading through it, listening to it early this morning.
Yeah,
Cool episode. Good dude.
he's amazing. I didn't realize. Yeah, that's so amazing. I'm so glad that he's on a show. I highly recommend him. He was on. I interviewed him as well too.
I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
highly recommend Yogi Aaron. Yes.
Bump in the Road. Check it out. Next up, we got the Arms Room Show every Monday, 2 p.m. Arizona Mountain Standard Time. New episode comes out this week. They're discussing considerations for navigating an urban disaster. Those of you that live in urban areas, this is definitely one you want to listen to. Check it out. It's called the Arms Room Show. It's kind of the Arms Room Show. They're the OG of the network. We brought them over from the other platform, and they just do a fantastic. You learn so much from that show. Next up, we got Misfit Nation podcast. They do a show a couple times a week. Their most recent episode yesterday was U.S. Army veteran Alan Minster, who embarked on a remarkable journey to reclaim his fitness and well-being after a wake-up call during a vacation. He decided to make a change to improve his lifestyle over the next 8 years. This commitment transformed his life, resulting in a significant weight loss and muscle gain over a 11-month period. And he shares that journey with you. And now he's out to help people lose over 10,000 pounds in a sustainable manner. I think this was just a really cool episode. They did a good job on this one. Misfit Nation podcast. Check it out. Next up, we got your 6 at 6 with the People's Patriot Project every Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. They do a live roundtable type show. They bring on veteran and first responder musicians, and then they do a couple other shows. They do a weekly debrief. I believe it's on Monday nights, and then they do a We P3. It's always a tongue twister for me. We P3 Radio. Where they talk to the musicians, kind of a second off of the We Got Your 6 at 6. But We Got Your 6 at 6 every Sunday night live on Facebook. Check it out, People's Patriot Project. Decision Hour. I didn't have my notes ready for this one, but I do have a show coming out this weekend. I promise. What's it going to be? You'll just have to stay tuned to find out. Come back and check it out. Decision Hour. Next up, we got Other Side of the Firewall. I love this show. IT folks out there, or if you're wanting to learn IT, this is definitely the show you want to listen to. The conversation this week is talking about regulated industries adopting military-grade cybersecurity defenses and the importance of information sharing and collaboration in the cybersecurity field. This one, it was very eye-opening, especially since we talked about AI earlier and the importance of AI and how that's kind of getting incorporated in everything. So they do express the optimism about the future of cybersecurity, but stress the importance of security awareness and understanding among both older and younger generations. It's called The Other Side of the Firewall. Check that out. Next up, we got Every Man's Odyssey. This week's episode, Cole shares his personal journey trying to grow closer to God and how he finally realized it's really not as difficult as he thought it was. I love this episode. This was he really kind of opened. He's such a good guy, and he opens up about his journey growing closer to God, and it was pretty remarkable. Every Man's Odyssey. Check it out. Next up, Homefront Sit Rep podcast. These guys are on fire these last several weeks. Monday night's episode, militaryfairs.com. They speak with Scott Lara. I didn't even know this organization exists. Military Affairs is a leading online travel agency for active duty and retired U.S. Armed Forces members. They find the best flight tickets possible by comparing itineraries and routings from more than 650 airlines. With militaryfairs.com, you can quickly and securely search, book, and pay for flights and trips worldwide. First off, I didn't realize there were 650 airlines that you can compare to. One, two,
That's a lot of airlines.
Yeah, that's a lot. Homefront Sit Rep, they're doing shows now Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday nights, and you can see their live shows right here on HMG as well. Follow them, Homefront Sit Rep podcast. Great episode this week, guys. Good job. Next up, we got the Joel Evans Show. Joel, community hero, he joins Dr. Elliot Justin, who introduces the groundbreaking FirmTech ring. It's the world's first wearable device that monitors men's sexual health, cardiovascular health, and other biomarkers. Anybody that's over the age of 40 really needs to listen to this episode. I'm not going to lie. I was like, okay, what's going on here? I watched this show and I was like, really? Like, you got something out there that does this. I'm not getting into it. You guys have to check it out. The Joel Evans Show, when he talks with Dr. Elliot Justin, and his company is called FirmTech. Yeah, very eye-opening in a positive way. Check it out, Joel Evans Show. Next up, we got our girl, Deanna Radulescu, over at Label Free Podcast. Deanna is on... she's a force to be reckoned with. Absolutely love this show. This past week, she was live at the Civic Opera House for the Tony P's Women Empowerment Networking event. And the event aimed to bring together amazing women to create a supportive network for their businesses and friendships. She does a ton of interviews and talks about some of the speakers that were there. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of them, but one of the things I want to highlight about Deanna's show, Label Free Podcast, is you're going to be able to watch it on TV now. Follow Label Free Podcast, and you'll be able to watch a lot of her episodes on Roku, Apple TV, and some other stuff. She just closed a deal, and she's going to be live on that stuff as well. So great episode, and she does a couple of episodes each week as well. Label Free Podcast, check it out. Next up, we got Because Bikers Matter podcast. Our host, David, a.k.a. Vegas Schumann, interviews the special guest, Horny Mike Henry. I'm telling you, That's
What a name. That's
I
great.
the way I said that, it was like, okay, because I know I don't know Horny Mike personally, but I watched this Customs and some of the other shows that are on TV. So Horny Mike shares his background growing up in Michigan, moving to Myrtle Beach after high school, where he discovered his interest in motorcycles. Great painter, and he's got a great story. Because Bikers Matter podcast, check it out. Next up, we got Environmentally Speaking. This one was a mind-blowing one. It's a sci-fi reality of plastic-eating bacteria.
Oh, wow.
That's the title this week. And they talk about this scientific breakthrough that they find this. It's a Japanese company that found this plastic-eating bacteria, an advancement that has the potential to revolutionize our approach to plastic waste management. It was found in a Japanese landfill, and now the current research is aimed at accelerating its efficiency. And they're going to in this episode they uncover how the development could impact the global issue of plastic accumulation on landfills and oceans. And they really kind of talk about the garbage dump in the Pacific Ocean. There's a section in the Pacific Ocean that is just huge, lots and lots and lots of trash. But this is a very, very interesting episode. And you would think that this bacteria was something that was formed in a lab. It was not.
Wow.
And
Really?
that's what's really, really cool about this. This was straight up just an interesting episode. Environmentally Speaking, it's called. Check it out. We got a couple more here. Stay with me, folks. MSEC podcast, Military Child Education Coalition. If you are active duty, Guard, Reserve, and you have children that are in the house still going to school, follow these all. Follow them. Great resources. It's a great nonprofit organization. Their podcast, the MSEC podcast, in their latest episode, they were honored to have Lisa Howard talk about crucial topic of mental health within the military community. She open-heartedly shares her personal family experiences, emphasizing why having open conversations is vital to breaking the stigma surrounding mental health. No truer statement said. It's called the MSEC podcast. Check it out. Last up in the queue for the shows this week, Chasing Happiness with our man Ryan. Today, or this week, excuse me, they're diving deep into the world of multi-generational wealth with Chad Holmes, the author of The Inheritance Playbook, helping your parents pass the torch, not the tax.
Which would be great.
I love that. And Pop, I know you're I know you're watching this show. That book's coming, Pop. I get no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah. You're going to hand deliver that to him.
I'll get a phone call later. Prepare for an enlightening conversation where they uncover strategies to preserve your family's legacy while minimizing tax burdens. This is a great one too, I think. Check it out. It's called Chasing Happiness. I got to give a shout out to some of our sponsors here real quick. My Tax Fella, if you're a business or you just need help with your taxes, they do bookkeeping. They do your taxes. I love this organization. My Tax Fella, hit up my man Anthony over there. Great guy. We'll probably be doing a live from his place here in the next couple of weeks. MyTaxFella.com. Go check them out. We've been working with them for years. Veterans PCS, another great organization. And before I forget, I can't believe I forgot this. Next week, June 25th, if you're interested in learning about real estate or becoming a real estate investor, Johns Hopkins University has got an event coming on. It's free. Now, you can be in D.C. If you're in the D.C. metro area and you want to go to Johns Hopkins and you want to attend this personally, let me know so I can get you VIP passes to attend. Or you can attend this event virtually. And I will, after the show, I will put the notes in there. Or if you scroll through our Facebook page, you'll see the article that I wrote for Newsmax a few weeks ago. You can register there as well in the article. But check this out. This is going to be a great event. June 25th at Johns Hopkins University. Forget Genetics, you outdoors guys. Forget Genetics. Go check them out. You bring all the woodland creatures into your woods. You'll love it. Motorcycle Safety Lawyers, go check them out. If you ride bike, you want these guys on your speed dial. Home Studio Mastery with our man Junaid. Just got his books, 7 Stages of Home Studio Evolution. This is a great book. Very, very easy read. If I can read it, anybody can, because I'm not a good reader. And this was awesome. Thank you, Junaid, for everything that you're doing. Jim Neary's Bait and Tackle. Warriors on the Water LTD, another great organization. The Freedom People, Sisu Stamina, and the Universal Learning Approach. I love their vitamins. Check them out. Who am I missing? JB Auto Clothiers. They're making me look good each and every week just for you guys. You're welcome. Veteran-owned organization. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, our sister company, HMG Beverage. You go to hmgbeverage.com or hmgcoffee.com. Place your orders and use promo code HMG10. They're going to give you 10% off on your next order. What do we have here? We're going to Ryan Williams Senior. Hey, appreciate you jumping on. Do you want Godzilla? Because that's how it's just...
What does that mean?
Oh, I love it. I got you, bro. I got you. That's it. That is all the time that we have. I had a great time today. Kathy, thank you so much for everything that you do, for being a part of the HMG family, and jumping on with us today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be part of your network, and to also be in the presence of all the different heroes. I think everyone can be a hero, but it's so wonderful to be a hero. And for everyone that's ex-military, I so honor you as well. Thank you for everything that you've done for the country, myself, my family. So I really honor you all.
I love it. I love it. Folks, that's it. Make sure you check out all the shows. Go to heroesmediagroup.com. Check out all the shows, places that we're going to be coming up, and if you're interested, you got a show, you want to join our network, hit us up. Or if you're an author and you want an audiobook done, let us know. It's kind of something we do too as well. So get outside this weekend. It's hot. I don't know where you are in the country, but it's hot out here. It's in the 90s, and it is. I know my people in Arizona are like, you know what hot is. That's nothing. Blah, blah, blah. I get it. But get off the phones, get out in nature this weekend. God bless you. God bless America. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.